Play-by-play.
Harry's settling in at Hogwarts, and he goes into Flitwick's Charms class for the iconic swish and flick scene. We know what happens and all of the memes that followed, but something I wanted to hit on that doesn't get all the attention. Harry got paired up with Seamus, and he's happy about this, particularly because apparently Neville was trying to get Harry's attention to be partners. The fact that Harry is avoiding Neville sucks, but it also just fuels the upcoming arc for Neville, which we're going to chat more about very, very soon. Of course, there's Hermione correcting Ron's pronunciation, although differently than the movie and the viral memes that you've seen probably twice a day for the past 20 years. And Ron talking crap about her after class. She overhears, she storms away crying. She doesn't come out of the bathroom for classes or for the feast. She's quite distraught. And Ron tries to play it off like he doesn't care, but Harry can tell he feels bad about it. And then here it comes. Troll in the Dungeons, played off pretty funny in the movie, although less dramatic in the book. Of course, it's Quirrell who announces this, and this is where I have to stop for a second. Okay. Shouldn't this have been a dead giveaway for Dumbledore? The Sorcerer's or Philosopher's Stone is currently being protected by a bunch of different enchantments. We're going to go through all of them at the end of the book because they're the obstacles between the person trying to get to the stone and the stone. And these obstacles are contributions from several of the teachers at the school, including Quirrell. And what's Quirrell's obstacle? A freaking troll. Apparently, he has some sort of a gift for controlling trolls or something. So he uses one as his big defense against the dark arts stone protection. And then he tries to use a troll as a diversion so he can go after the stone. This is an ignorant plan. There's a 0% chance that Dumbledore didn't catch on to this and know exactly what's going on. Right? If you're familiar with this show, you can guess that I rarely ask a question like that without a theory to dive into. And if you'd like to dig into this particular theory, where we try to dissect Dumbledore's awareness of this awful ruse and his motivation for letting it play out, support the show on Patreon. All patrons receive early access to ad-free versions of this podcast. And as an all-star level patron for just $5 a month, you'll also receive exclusive bonus episodes like Theory Corner, where we'll dive into this particular theory. Your support is how we'll keep the show going and hopefully keep it growing. By the way, we're calling that theory Trolling Dumbledore. If that's not a reason to want to listen to it, I got nothing for you. Back to the chapter, where for some reason Dumbledore is letting this nonsense just go down in the school. And we follow Harry and Ron as they try to save Hermione from the bathroom before she's brutally murdered by a mountain troll. They see it go in a room, they lock it in, thinking they trapped it in and saved the school. How special for them. Of course, they trapped it into the same bathroom where Hermione is, because of all the rooms in this castle, it is somehow this one. Because plot. They go in, Harry's leadership and his Gryffindor start showing immediately. He's taking charge. He tells Ron, confuse the troll. They start throwing stuff at it. And Harry runs to Hermione, trying to pull her up, and she's frozen. She's toast at this moment. Harry does the only logical thing in this scenario. He jumps on the troll's back, grabs it around the neck, and inadvertently shoves a wand up its nose. Okay. Less logical, but brave and stupid. Thankfully, Ron remembers how to pronounce the levitation spell properly, and Wingardium Leviosas the troll's club before it knocks Harry's skull into the upper deck. It drops on the troll's head, knocks it out, and in come Prof. McGee, Quirrell, and Snape, who, by the way, How the hell are these two here with Prof McG? Snape cuts Quirrell off trying to get past Fluffy. And what? Quirrell says, "Ah, shucks, you got me. Let's go be teachers again?" Whatever. Hermione lies without really needing to. Prof McG gives them a measly 5 points for not dying and sends them on their way. We're going to have plenty of opportunities to complain about house points in that situation. So for now, let's pretend that this makes sense in any given world at all. The important thing is that our little dumbass duo just became the Golden Trio. And this is officially the moment that decides the fate of the wizarding world, because without Hermione, these two idiots would be dead before we finish this book, let alone the sixth coming. And thankfully, because if it was one book, I would not be doing this podcast. That leads us into chapter 11, Quidditch. And this is going to be pretty short because, ironically enough, for a podcast with high-level sports themes and a segment literally called Play-by-Play that we are talking about right now, I don't really think you want a recap of the silly game on broomsticks. Don't get me wrong, if I'm a wizard, I'm playing Quidditch, but the game itself isn't super integral to the plot. However, there are definitely important moments. But before we get to those, we have one before the match starts, where Snape is bullying Harry, taking his Quidditch book, making up a rule about taking a library book outside. Really? If you check out a library book, you can only read it under the castle roof. Get out of here. You're basically just abusing your authority on a kid you hate because you never got over your childhood trauma, so you grew up and got his parents killed, and it fuels your self-loathing. I said it. But it gives us plot movement. Another clue, and when Harry goes back to get his book, he sees Snape and Filch talking about Fluffy and tending to the bad cuts on his leg. He sees Harry, screams at him, and all good educators and mentors would do the exact same thing. Right? Sure. Harry gets the hell out of there. But this is where the speculation of our little Sherlock gang really starts. Harry and Ron are convinced that Snape let the troll in and tried to get past the fluff pup. Hermione isn't convinced, and next day, Quidditch. The match never matters. Here's what matters. Harry almost dies when his broom starts trying to buck him off. Hermione sets Snape on fire, apparently not defending him anymore. He still caught the snitch because Harry doesn't lose Quidditch unless he's unconscious, and he caught the snitch in his mouth and nearly swallowed it. After the match, they tell Hagrid about Snape. They think he cursed Harry's broom. Of course, we know that he was using a counter curse, but shouldn't he have known that it was Quirrell that was jinxing the broom in the first place? Quirrell knew it was Snape trying to counter. Why didn't Snape know it was Quirrell doing the cursing? Of course, I'm sure there's no part of magic where you can sense who the caster is when you're in the middle of this type of magical interaction of sorts. But they were standing pretty close to each other, at least close enough that with Snape having just caught Quirrell doing some really shady stuff, who else would he think it would be? And rather than muttering a counter jinx or whatever he was doing, why didn't he just turn around and curse Quirrell? I can't say that very well. How many curse Quirrell, curse Quirrell, curse Quirrell? I didn't set this up. Curse Quirrell. There we go. Dumb bit. Maybe he should have just punched him. All it took was breaking his concentration. Thanks to Hermione and all, but how does this mystery actually make any sense? It makes sense to the trio. They're not privy to the information that we are as rereaders. But now that we know all the behind the scenes stuff that's going on, there are a few things that just don't really hold up to scrutiny. Disclaimer, I love these books, but how can we think about them critically without acknowledging when things just don't make any sense outside of we needed an excuse for Hermione to save the day and still think Snape is the bad guy, so Snape can't do the logical thing that a good guy actually would do, like turn around and hit the guy that's cursing the broom. Anyways, Hagrid tells him about Fluffy. He defends Snape, and he lets Nicholas Flamel's name drop, supposedly on accident. I'm not so sure that Dumbledore didn't actually intend for Hagrid to be a vessel to pass Harry information as part of his plan. He needs Harry to figure out the clues. So he needs to drop the clues, and he can't do it himself. So why not use the trusted protector and friend, that chess piece that he set up back in chapter 1? Couldn't that have been Hagrid's role all along? Intentional or not, that's how the chapter ends, bringing us to the scouting report segment.
The Belated Binge podcast.